Kathy here from Shaler North Hills Library, and we are going to do the activity section for Thanksgiving on Thursday, the Magic Treehouse book. So hopefully you have picked up a packet of the activities, or you've printed one out from the links provided on the website, and we can do these together. One thing I want to remind you is that for many of these books we're doing, there's a fact tracker that goes along with them. Like this one is based on Thanksgiving on Thursday. It's called Pilgrims, and it gives you many charts and drawings and lots of information about life back at the time of the first Thanksgiving. A little more detail than you can find in the book. So those are always good things to check out as well. You don't have to read the whole thing. Maybe you flip through and find some things that are interesting to you. But let's get started now with the activities. The first one is the vocab matchup. So some of these are vocabulary words that you may not be familiar with that were used in the book, so let's see if we can match them up together. We got a lot of choices here, A through O. So let me get my pencil here. I always like to do these things in pencil, you know, because then it's easy for when I might make a mistake. Okay, feast. Let's see, we have A, to climb or move quickly. B, leafy green plants used for flavoring. C, small hard-shell clams. D, to travel around in order to discover new things. E, the floor in front of a fireplace. F, strong with large muscles. G, to hunt or trap wild birds. H, weapons and ammunition. I, a large meal, typically in celebration of something. That sounds like a feast to me, so I'm going to go with I. Let me finish reading the rest of these. A long rod used to hold food over a fire while it is being cooked. That's J. K, to make a home or live in a new place. L, a plant whose roots are edible, such as turnips, carrots, or beets. M, materials like straw or leaves and branches used to cover roofs. N, a small knit covering for the foot and leg. And O, to move along by sliding, like a snake. So those are all our choices. We have I, and I always like to cross it off once I've used it, because then it's easier to know which ones I need to still use. Scrambled. Well, I'm going to leave that one and come back to it, because none of them leapt out at me as far as scrambled. Wait, looking at the first one again, to climb or move quickly. I forgot about that one. So when you scramble up a cliff or a rock or something, you may say, you are climbing and moving quickly. I was also thinking of like scrambled eggs, where things get all mixed up and tossed together, but there's more than one meaning for scrambled, so we're going to go with A, to climb or move quickly. Settle. Well, when you settle, when you say you're going to settle down somewhere and make that your new home, that goes along with K, to make a home or live in a new place. Explore. Well, that's kind of the opposite. That's when you're going out and doing things you've never done before, or go to places you've never been. So I'm going to go with, right across from that one, D, to travel around in order to discover new things. Okay, we're on a roll here. Thatched. Have you ever heard about thatched roofs on houses used in the book? And I'm sure they would tell you more about thatched roofs in that fact tracker. So that would be M, materials like straw or leaves and branches used to cover the roofs. Okay, burly. When I think of a burly man, I think of like a weightlifter or something. And that's pretty much what we're going to go with here, right across from it. F, strong with large muscles. Fowling. A fowl is like poultry or birds. You say waterfowl, those are birds that go on water. So if you go fowling, what do you think it means? Yeah, G, to hunt or trap wild birds, right across from it. Okay, stockings. Used to be, women would always wear stockings when they had their fancy high heel shoes on and things. Today, a lot of women don't wear them, but stockings are things you put on your legs. And it says N, a small knit covering for the foot and leg. So they can be heavier materials too to keep your legs warm. Slither. The only word, animal I can think of associated with slither is a snake. And it's O, to move along by sliding like a snake. Quahog clams, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. They did tell us in the book, but I don't remember. Well, that one's kind of easy because it says small hard shell clams for letter C, so we're going to go with that one. Certain type of clams. A hearth, you know which what a hearth is? Hearth is the floor in front of a fireplace. E. Okay, root vegetables. That would be vegetables where you eat the root of them. So that would be L, a plant whose roots are edible. Edible means you can eat it, such as turnips, carrots, or beets, all called root vegetables. Herbs. Herbs are things you add to food to give it flavoring, like oregano or marjoram, or what are some other ones that I just can't think of right now? Rosemary, ones like that. So those would be leafy green plants used for flavoring. B. Arms, this one was what confused Jack in the book, huh? He was thinking about arms, but there's another meaning for arms, just like there was for scrambled. Arms means weapons and ammunition. That was letter H. And that only leaves us with spit, which works out because it is, you might put a chicken on the spit or a pig on the spit if you're having a pig roast, a long rod used to hold food over a fire while it is being cooked. You usually do that with bigger chunks of meat in the old days. Now you don't do it too much at all. But most ovens don't have a spit, but you might do it at an outdoor cookout or something. So that was some of the vocabulary words from Thanksgiving on Thursday. Thanksgiving then and now sheet. This one was a little bit confusing to me because I'm not exactly sure what they wanted you to do, but it looked kind of cute. So we can cut out these squares and we can glue them on the one that goes with that picture. Whether you think the picture is showing today or a way that things used to be, and then some of the blanks are empty that you have to fill in. So the picture on the left looks like the old-fashioned way. People ate with spoons, knives, and their fingers. They did not use forks. So we're going to cut out this little slip of paper and glue it onto this side of the page, because there is a spoon sitting there and there is a knife, but we see no fork because they didn't use them back then. They used their fingers instead, huh? So you can just glue that around there somewhere. There were very few chairs, so children usually stood while eating. Well, you can't really tell that from this picture, but I think the fact that there's nothing shown behind him is what's supposed to mean that they stood up. Because if you look at the other picture, you can clearly see a chair in the picture, huh? So maybe over by where he doesn't have a chair, we're going to paste that one. People used large napkins hung over their shoulders to wipe their hands and to grab hot foods. So can't really tell if he has one already put over his shoulder or not. So if you were going to color this page, you could draw one in, hanging down over his front area. And the last one was, one cup was passed around the table and everyone took a drink from it. Well, that wouldn't fly even a year ago at this time. It certainly doesn't fly during this pandemic, does it? And that is why we don't see any glass in front of him at his table, whereas if you look at the other picture, we see a glass sitting there right in front of that boy. So today we And then you can cut out these squares and fill them in and glue them on. In the 21st century, that means around this time, now we and today we. So 4 different things. Doesn't have to be the same as what they told us about the olden times, but you can pick up on those same ideas. Now we each have our own cup to drink from, and today we use spoons, knives, and forks. Sometimes more than one, huh? We have different size forks. We have a salad fork and then a dinner fork. They mentioned about the napkins, and you can see that in that picture here with the today's way, there is a napkin rolled up in a napkin holder because everybody gets their own napkin and lays it on the table. And you can see that the child is sitting in a chair, which is something they didn't used to do, it says. So you can draw faces on those people and fill in the rest of these squares and cut them and put them on. And then if you want to cut out the 2 pages, you'll have a little then and now picture, or you can just leave them on this sheet and cut around it like that. Might be a good idea too. And color in the whole thing and make it nice pictures of the way they used to do things compared to how we do them today. Okay, what was the next thing on the list here? Oh, the mini book. So hopefully you were able to print out those pages, and I am going to show you my finished book. So you have the cover on the front, and then on the back of that you want to make sure you have page number 1, and then on the opposite side of that is page number 6, but we're not going to have that page next. We're going to fold all of these pages in half, and when you take the side that says page 2 and fold it in half so it's on top, then we're going to stick that right in the middle. And then we have, when we turn that page, on the back of that was page 3, and next to that was page 4, and on the back of that is 5, and that's when we get to page 6, which was on the opposite of page number 1, and your back cover. So let's read through this booklet together, the first Thanksgiving, and then you can do a nice job coloring it. I'm not going to do all the coloring right now, but the Pilgrims had a long, stormy voyage to America. Then they faced a cold winter. The weather made it hard to build homes and find food. The Pilgrims were hungry and sick, and many of them died. It says half of the Pilgrims died by the end of winter. And it shows a picture of the type of conditions they had. Finally, spring came. The Pilgrims cleared land for their crops. A helpful Native American named Squanto taught them how to hunt and grow food. He also helped them make friends with the Wampanoag people. The Pilgrims cleared about 20 acres for planting. And there's Squanto showing them how to plant some of their seeds. By fall, the Pilgrims had built 7 houses and a meeting place. At harvest time, they had plenty of corn to store for later. They also stored meat, fruit, and other vegetables. No one would starve this winter. Meat was salted and vegetables were dried for later use, because remember, they had no refrigeration at this point. So things had to be preserved in other ways. The Pilgrims were thankful for their homes, food, and friends. They decided to celebrate their first harvest with a feast. The men hunted duck and geese. The women and children made breads, pies, stews, and other dishes. The Pilgrims also caught fish, eels, and shellfish for the feast. That's what Jack was asked to get, huh? An eel. So that was on that page. And we turn it over. A group of Wampanoag men joined the celebration. They brought 5 deer for the feast. The Pilgrims and their Wampanoag friends ate, drank, and visited with each other. They also played games and ran races. About 50 Pilgrims and 90 Wampanoag were at the feast, so the Native Americans actually outnumbered the Pilgrims. The men had shooting contests, that's with using their arms. The Pilgrims marched in a parade. There was music, dancing, and singing. What a celebration. The first harvest feast is now known as the first Thanksgiving. It lasted 3 days. So it looks like the children and women prepared a lot of food and put it on the tables, and he's shooting a bow and arrow, all kinds of fun things going on. Write what you learned about the first Thanksgiving, then draw a picture. So if there was something you learned from reading this little booklet that you didn't know before, write a sentence about it or two, and then you can draw another picture in the book and make that one your own. And put together your first Thanksgiving booklet. Okay, let's see. Next was make a Thanksgiving Day quilt. And this one, again, I am not going to sit here and make you watch while I color, but quilts are wonderful ways that the earlier settlers in our country used to use up scraps of material. They made quilts out of them. So each square in a quilt was sometimes different. And it says, decorate this quilt by filling each square with a word or picture showing something you are thankful for. So I'll do one or two of them here with you. I'm going to be thankful for, and some of you may have seen this on some of my videos, I'm going to be thankful for my cat, Seuss. And this is probably a good thing that I told you. That's what I'm drawing, because otherwise I don't think you would ever be able to know that this is a cat. But mostly black, a little bit of white on him. Her. What am I saying? Him. We do have a cat that's a him too, but I'm drawing a black one now, so that's a her. Okay, what else am I thankful for? I can be thankful for our house. That we have a house to live in. Well, sometimes that happens with a colored pencil. You stick with crayons and they're almost always a safe bet. A brick house. You can draw a house. You can draw your family. You can decide some things to be thankful for. And make a beautiful thank you quilt.
Well, in 3 or 4 minutes.
So there you have my house and my kitty cat, and you can think of a lot of other things that you can be thankful for and fill in the quilt. Then we have a site that we're not going to show you on the computer because you can go to it yourself. But it had all kinds of cool stuff about the real first Thanksgiving and the Pilgrims coming over on the Mayflower, and real historical in the sets where these things could actually have happened, and people dressed up like they actually wore clothes back then, telling you about the real experiences. And you can be in the Native American village, you can be in the Pilgrim village, you can be on the Mayflower, or I think you can be at the first Thanksgiving feast. There's 4 different videos to watch, and then all kinds of other things going on too. So check out a lot of things on that website. It was really cool. I think it's put on by Scholastic. Yes. And so it's geared towards kids and helping them learn about the truth behind the first Thanksgiving. Okay, make butter the colonial way. Well, I'm certainly not going to make you watch me do that because it does take a little while. That's what all the websites said. But it would be super cool if you could make butter this way and have it for your own Thanksgiving feast. All you need is cream, heavy cream or whipping cream, and a jar with a lid. So it's pretty straightforward, the ingredients. And then you just need a lot of energy. So if you've got a lot of kids in your family and they need to get out some energy, pass the jar around and each take turns shaking it. It tells you how to do that in there. Learn the Wampanoag names for some of our own animals. So if you have a dog in your family, you might call him a num. And no one, a couple of sites that I looked at, they does say that no one is exactly sure how they pronounce these words, because it was kind of a dying language, and now they're trying to resurrect it some Wampanoag people are trying to bring it back, but it was passing out of use for a while, so no one's quite sure of the pronunciation. We won't go through all of these, but raccoon would be an Aasup, so it has an A-U at the beginning, just like a dog. How about the eagle underneath it? Wabsakuk. Wabsakuk. Next time you see one in a picture, you can say, that's a Wabsakuk, and impress your friends. Deer, you might see deer around your house. Otaki, maybe, up in the corner up here. Maybe you have fish in your home. Nemos. And these would be the clams, I guess, down here. Sokis. Owls, rabbits, other animals. So just kind of interesting to see how they would have pronounced the names of those animals compared to ours. And the last thing on the list was make an ear of beaded corn. This was off of a Native American website. We're not going to do the beaded necklace with the leather because I don't have leather, and I'm pretty sure you probably don't have craft leather to work with. But we do have pipe cleaners and beads. So it says to have 4 pipe cleaners twisted into one at the end. So first thing I'm going to do is take my 4 pieces of pipe cleaners, and this was actually 2 pipe cleaners cut in half. So now I have the 4 pieces. I'm going to twist them at the end and twist these 2 together with them. And that will keep the beads from coming off when they're twisted at the end. Okay, then we're going to string different beads onto them. So I brought a whole bag of beads here. You can use any colors you want, and you're going to fill up each side, each piece of pipe cleaner, although you don't want to go too close to the top because you want to leave room to tie them up at the end. It says leave enough room to twist the end. It talks about using hot glue to secure them. I don't think we're going to need hot glue. I think they're going to stay just because they're twisted together. But you can certainly use hot glue yourself at home if you want. And hopefully you have some beads around that you can be using for this. Doesn't have to be these exact type of beads, the pony beads, but they do fit well on the pipe cleaner. So that's one advantage to using them. And you just thread them on. And you can make a whole bunch of these, and then put them together in like a centerpiece or something for your table if you want. I'm not going to do all the way up here because I think that will take too long. I probably should have started before you guys were sitting here watching me. But I thought we would just do it together. If you have your own beads at home, you can be working on it too at the same time. Put a few more on here, then I'll show you what I was going to do to cap it off at the end, and you can keep going with yours and get it all the way up. It talks about not using anything except the hot glue at the end, but in the picture it looked like there was some raffia or something at the top, and I didn't have any of that. I don't know if you do around your house or not. If you do, great, but if you don't, that's okay too. I thought you could use streamers. You could use, this happens to be a piece of paper towel, that I cut and ripped into strips. Actually, I just ripped them. So I'm going to twist up my ends of my pipe cleaners here like this. And then I was going to take pieces of the crumpled up paper towel and just kind of tie it loose around the top. But you could do it with whatever you thought would look good, really. Oops. It's the only problem, getting it tied a little bit tighter because it wants to break if you pull too tight on it. But if you do it a couple times with a couple different pieces, you can have a nice little O at the top like they kind of show in theirs, even though they didn't mention it on the ingredient list. Well, it's not really ingredients since we're not making a recipe on the supply list. So that's kind of what it ends up looking like. You can do it more and more, but I just wanted to show you briefly, and then you have the beads coming up. And you would finish it all the way up to the top and finish your ear of corn. So that's what I have for you today on first Thanksgiving on Thursday activities. So stay tuned for next week, a new installment of the Magic Tree House. See which book we're going to do next and all the fun activities to go along with it. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you are watching this before Thanksgiving. Hope everyone had a good one if you're watching it after, and that everyone is staying safe. Miss Kathy saying bye for now.